I kept like, hello, you're and one of the kids, and it had made one of the kids host. So he was like admitting people in and stuff. I appreciate he stays in here. But yeah. They chit-chatted, and then when he realized he was here, he started going in and out, just trying to get back in. And then he goes, there was another word on it. They didn't know what it meant, so I decided to click it.
It's the all that.
Right, and in accordance with.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't really mind.
That's the detail.
Right. As well, but it's really not.
Yep.
I teach virtual anyway, so.
You can't change the agenda, so they can just have that
I think the motion can be whatever as long as it's
Are we good, Lawrence?
aligned to
Yeah.
that.
He's ready.
It's okay. I'd rather decide.
Do you want to, I'm going to turn this to you, do you want to discuss it a little bit, what changes have been made?
And so I'll be told. They come greet you. Are you
I love
You ready? I'd like to welcome you to the special board meeting Thursday, December 3rd. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor? Raise your right hand. So we have two items, one action item and one discussion item for the adjustments to the first semester strategic reopening plan. With that, I'll let Lauren touch base on the action item a little bit and what changes have been made in our plan.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the administration and the Board of Education for their input into the updates and changes that were made following Monday's special board meeting. And just to clarify a little bit, the extra and co-curricular activities criteria was updated. This is the one that our high school athletic director, Cody Witt, put together. But it was reviewed by board members and administration, and it was shared today for their input, and it met everybody's approval. So that was this part, the extra and co-curricular activities. The other one was a waiver, which was originated again by Cody Witt, and it was refined, updated, and was passed out today to all board for their review and input. And then lastly, and probably as important as any, was the extracurricular activities procedures, which was the double-sided. Once again, we had considerable input from administration and from board members in updating this. All of these documents were reviewed by KASD for their input, and that was shared with Cody and Mark Farrar. And so that has all been updated, and we feel there were some other clarification pieces that were shared with board to myself and with the administration. And that's really all I have to say. This is, in our opinion, a completed document that meets the criteria and I think the expectations of USD 464.
Very good. Thank you. So before we vote, is there any discussion amongst the board?
I want to say a couple things real quick before we vote. So I broadly still question the wisdom of this going against the health department and our council. That said, my intention is to support this tonight. I think this has turned into a huge distraction, and frankly, I'm more concerned with how we get the kids back in the building, and we need to stop talking about it, and I think, that's at least somewhat in part why I have changed my view on it. The two comments I wanted to make are, I think everybody needs to remember that this is a knife edge kind of deal that we're all walking here. And I think that, at least my view on the board is that if we don't follow the rules that we set out, and that's the board, that's the administration, coaches, everybody, it puts this whole thing in jeopardy. And I think it would certainly, for me, cause it to come back before the board to be another question. And then secondly, just remember that, this pandemic is evolving, and I think that, should this pandemic go to, someplace significantly further than it is right now, it could likely come back before the board again. So, this is a point in time thing. I support it, but we've got to follow the rules, and we got to all hope the pandemic continues the way it's going. So that's my only comment.
Anybody else? Well, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the three documents presented, the USD 464 Tonganoxie Extra and Co-Curricular Activities Procedures, the Extra and Co-Curricular Activities Criteria, and then the Tonganoxie School District Extracurricular Activities Participation Agreement, and incorporate that into the what's the official name of the reopening plan, and that we have the following revisions that we talked about earlier on. For the extra and co-curricular activities procedures, we add 1.F, which is any reports of personnel or student athletes not adhering to quarantine procedures will be fully investigated. That in the extra and co-curricular activities criteria, the third bullet, THS, TMS administration instead of may be changed to will, consistent with the other bullet points. And then the last one is just a correction on item 4 for the participation, correction of spelling error to willingly.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carried. Which brings us to the next item, the discussion of the adjustments to the first semester strategic reopening plan.
Okay, so, yesterday, Tanya, well, actually, I think it was Tuesday, we had, an administrative meeting. Also, we had, I think, 2 of the high school assistant principals at that meeting where they proposed some changes that we could possibly make to our gating as we move forward to our second semester reopening plan. And that's been investigated by Tanya. She's put a lot of work into it the last couple of days. And before I turn it over to her, I want everybody to know that we are turning our attention after this meeting really to the best way we can get kids back in school as quickly as possible. And adjusting the gating criteria and involvement of the administration with the Board of Education, I mean, that's really important to us. And so we're working hard on that. We do have a meeting set up already Monday involving administration and board members to start that review. And so that's our next step. But I want to turn over to Tanya real quick for we're not going to get into this, into the weeds tonight on this, but just where she's at and maybe give everybody just a little bit of insight what you've been working on.
Instead of taking the initial document, our strategic reopening plan, and just polishing it, what I thought would be better is developing a second semester plan that just takes the first plan, condenses what we need to know now, but while still referring back to that first plan. So, for example, if you want to know specific details on cleaning protocol, riding the bus, wearing masks, that's in the initial document. The second semester document would just refer to your learning modes, whether it's remote or on-site, and then refer back to any other health procedures to the first document. I've also worked on redeveloping the gating criteria, and the gating criteria that we're looking at now is just using the county's data, but also including our particular data in the school district, so that we're not just using one data point. So it takes into consideration not only the county, but Tonganoxie specific numbers, so that we can make a well-informed decision using multiple data points. So that's what I've been working on, and first draft is in the administrator's hands now.
What's your, you know, that timeline range or target timelines? Because I know that it's a, I know in our household, it's a, I mean, I would imagine a lot of families are facing the same stress we are with how to balance work life and with the kids and everything. So is there any any expectation with regards to timing yet? I mean, obviously it can change, but what's your thoughts on that?
Right now, it looks like the 1st of January, Drew. Once again, we're finishing up this week. We don't know where we're going. I talked to Jamie Miller with Leavenworth County Health Department late this afternoon. The numbers are up. I'm not talking the positivity numbers. He's not going to release that. But the number of people that he has tested is up in the county. And so I don't know how that's going to reflect on Monday's numbers.
Right.
But once again, we don't want to go flip-flop, you know, back and forth at this time right before the holidays. So we really want to concentrate on that January 5th date that we established.
Right. So I know that one of the biggest challenges, it seemed like, or at least, you know, looking at the information, what was coming was, you know, the substitute challenge. If, you know, because our absentee rates for all the buildings throughout this entire COVID pandemic has been lower than a normal year as far as total absences. But when we do have absences, it's a much more difficult to fill those absences. So I assume that that's part of the a risk that's being looked at.
Absolutely. Has to be.
I think Tanya, you mentioned looking at local data, and I think to the extent that's possible, I love it. I would just encourage us to make sure that we really understand that data. You know, I felt like as one of the arguments that we've had throughout this athletic situation is the numbers in Tonganoxie are lower than the rest of the county. But depending on which day you look and how you do the math, sometimes that plays out and sometimes it doesn't. So to the extent we can do that, I'd love to. I just like to make sure we understand where's the data come from, how accurate is it, do we trust it, how does the math work on it? And then the only other thought on the subs is, have we thought much about just paying some subs to be here full time?
Well, we have 3 right now.
Should we do it more?
We can look at that. I think that's possible.
Might be worth looking at.
Anything else?
Well, the only thing I would like the district to always, I mean, I understand you can't flip-flop, but I think that going a month at a time, you know how this scenario was November
Right.
30th to January, I think I would like to get away from that. I think going at, like, whenever you make a move, like, going more 2 weeks or 1 week, like, not, I mean, I feel like that's a little.
I agree, but don't you think if it hadn't have been for the holidays,
Yes.
I mean, that was the driver here.
It was a
Yes.
drive.
But I agree with Kaya. I'd wanna look at it, I mean, daily's probably the wrong number, but not monthly either.
But on the flip side of that is and I honestly don't know this, but I just don't know how much effort that is for the staff if you were to, like, because I think when we went remote, they spent a lot of time preparing for that. I'm kind of looking at Stephanie because she's the one that would know if that took, is that?
It just is.
Hours probably to prepare. When I went remote, I spent 7 hours at school on that weekend preparing stuff for the kids to be gone.
I still think so, you know, one of the challenges we had with our fall reopening plan was the whole 2-week thing, you know, 2 weeks on the front end, 2 weeks on the back end. I think we clarify that in the new plan, but I still think some flavor of 2 weeks, you know, it's not a month. It gives the teacher something that they can plan for. It's not flip-flopping back and forth and,
It helps the parents too.
yeah.
Mm.
I think we need to clarify how it works
Yep.
though, 'cause that was pretty muddy.
The only other thing I would add is KSDE, they're gonna make an announcement that, they're going to change the gating criteria for the pre-K 5th grade. And, I'm not totally surprised, but that's coming from, CDC out of Topeka. And the whole effort is to get the young, especially the younger ones, back in school as quickly as possible. So that's going before the State Board of Education meeting Tuesday, I think.
And I'm anxious to see what that looks like,
Yeah.
to see if it impacts what we've already put
And
together.
it probably will. Yeah.
I'm glad to see them stepping up at that
Yeah.
level and not dumping it on us.
Volunteers?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's consistent with what our information
Mhm.
was. We just started really hitting the wall with subs and being able to spread teachers thin with trying to cover multiple classrooms taking up all their time.
There's movement.
Very good.
That's all I got.
Well, thanks, everybody. Meeting adjourned.